Namaste and welcome to Detours with me, Anuradha Goyal, where I talk to some very interesting personalities about journeys of all kinds.
Namaste and welcome to yet another interesting episode of Detours. Today we have with us Kalpana Ramesh ji, who's architect by education, but a practicing interior designer and a furniture designer based out of Hyderabad. But that's not what we are going to talk to her about. We are going to talk to her about something very, very interesting and very, very important. She has restored a lot of stepwells, and honestly speaking, I've lived in Hyderabad for 2, 3 years, and I was not even aware of the fact that there are stepwells in that city. I know it has lakes. I know it has two rivers which are almost dead, but I didn't know of stepwells, and I walked around the city quite a bit. So I was quite intrigued to know. And then when I looked at her work, how she's made one particular stepwell called Bansilalpet Stepwell a living heritage, which is what my dream for Indian heritage sites is. I don't want to see them as dead monuments visiting the past. I want them to be living heritage which has timestamps of every era from the time they were created to our time, even our timestamp. So Kalpana ji has really brought that dream alive for me. So, I'm Kalpana ji, welcome to Detours, and I'm really happy to have you on our podcast.
Namaste, Anuradha, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I've been following your work as well. It's so interesting, and I'm so privileged to talk to you today.
So, Kalpana ji, tell us about stepwells in Hyderabad, and how many of them would be there, and in what state are they roughly?
So, similar to your thinking, Anuradha, most of us were not even aware of stepwells until we got into a group under the Hyderabad Design Forum about 6 years ago under architect Yashwant Ramurthy. His vision was like he found a stepwell in one of his site visits and he thought it's an amazing structure. These are not documented in Telangana. So he set out on a mission where he wanted to document them. Basically, the outcome would be a book, a documented book. So when he called out for people, I heard about it, and around that time I'm already working towards water conservation. So I was very much interested in this, and I joined the group. So we were 12 of us, and each one had a task. So I told him that I don't want to sit and research, but I want to be on ground. I shall go and find these wells. Let me go to every district in Telangana, and that's where the journey actually started for Stepwells, I would say. So I have walked in and out of more than 340 stepwells myself in Telangana, which is a big number. Even today, I'm very, I'm just wonderstruck how many wells do we actually have? Because when we started our research from ASI, we got a list of 33 stepwells across our districts. And we kept finding, and honestly, I haven't even covered most, a few districts even to date. But we have exact locations of about 420 stepwells today, Google locations. So they could be in different typologies. They could be as part of mandirs, as part of masjids, as part of irrigating lands right in the middle of agricultural lands, or it could be part of forts. So multiple typologies of stepwells. So it's very, very interesting. But the only thing, the fact that I actually walked into them and out, every time you're in awe, you just find this stepwell and walk in. And then you have a sad face when you come back because you see it filled with carpets. You see, it's not respected, neither as water, neither as history, neither as it's a monument, and you don't even care for it. And the nice part is it's so relevant even today. Most stepwells still had water in them, and in spite of being a source, why is it not respected is always so I kept debating, okay, how to make it happen. So I spoke to Ashwin sir, I said, why don't we also start conserving as a group? He said, I don't have that bandwidth, but I definitely wish to, document whatever we find and bring people's interest to this. Hmm. So, along with my water conservation work, at that point, I was only working, leading efforts for an NGO for water efforts. And while working on ground, I understood a lot of gaps as to how to make this happen. Of course, I was more there at that point working with lakes and water bodies, surface water bodies. But here now, stepwells also became part of my agenda. But while working as an NGO, I realized that I have only certain limitations in the sense I have to, bring a lot of people and depend on them for this conservation. Slowly, my studio started turning into a water conservation studio, right? Rainwater harvesting, we started finding different methods how to do. We started bringing innovation to rainwater harvesting. And wells and ponds and lakes are literally, they hold our rainwater and they can reduce our urban flooding. They can create water security. They can reduce pollution in the shallow aquifers. So all this understood, it was very important to hold on to these lifelines, which is called wells. Now, why did I take this on a war footing? Because the ones that I found a few years ago, I walk back to them today in hope of conserving, and I don't find them. A building is upon and it's quickly filled upon because that few square feet of land seems more valuable than the resource itself. Then I used to sit and ponder upon because these images constantly keep coming in my mind. What I walked into, I walked out, and the villagers, the conversations that I had with them, everyone in hope that are you going to take it up? Are you going to make it happen? Is there any help for these wells? All these questions, right? And also personally, I thought I should really do something about it instead of just sort of complaining about the government and that. I said, what is a productive way to make this happen and how to highlight these costs. So I had to create interesting templates around these stepwells because I know by that time I had seen stepwells in Jaipur, few in Rajasthan. They are being restored, but within a couple of years they're going back to where it began, right? There are a lot of efforts have to happen and people are not really upkeeping the way it is supposed to be. So I thought just restoring will not do. How to connect back community to water today, because you and I and most of us are connected to tap and tanker today. So source doesn't matter to us. I mean, even if it is right in front of us, a well or a lake or a surface water body, it really doesn't matter because we think it's not part of the ecosystem, but sadly it is. It is connected to our shallow aquifers. It is connected to our bore wells. And 60% of bore well water is what we drink today. So we better be worried about what is water around us. Then, also self-taught and understood a lot of things on ground, like what is a clean catchment, how if there is garbage in the catchment in that micro watershed, every time it rains there's leachate. I mean, there's black water that is entering our clean shallow aquifers. So how to avoid this, how to create a clean catchment. So this whole thing seemed to be, I saw myself working towards a holistic solution. I didn't want to just jump into it and just restore. It also required funding. Funding is a big piece of this story. I mean, though we expect the government to take it up and fund, but initially they're not, they don't think it's a vote bank thing, right? They don't really focus
They don't
on.
see a case for it.
Yeah, but today I wanted to create that also for them. How do I create a win for everybody? Because anytime you go to a lake restoration, anything, the only thing people ask you is, what is it in for me? What is it in for us? We put this effort, then what? So hardly people come along with you, but then they'll have a lot of things. What are they benefiting from it? So I wanted to answer these questions before even I got into a thing. So I started working on a detailed project plan. Who are the people I require? What is the sequence of things? What is the first thing I do? And what is the last thing I'm supposed to, including maintenance plan, including how the monument can generate its own income, all of this, because you can't let go of it's like your baby. You make it, you get it, on ground. You make it happen. But what you don't want to abandon it, even if you are not there. This should run autopilot. So what are those things? So to again come back to your question, across Telangana there are more than 600 plus stepwells for sure. We still have to unearth a lot of them.
How many of these would be in the, let's say, Hyderabad municipality area?
Hyderabad, there is about 100. We have 86 locations with us.
Okay.
Definitely, there are 100 because we know that there are a few in private properties. So some private property owners did take care. But the nice change I saw is in Hyderabad that once we restored a few wells, and especially the Bansilalpet step well, I saw a builder in his plot. Usually, what do? They fill it up and they build, right? Here, what he did, he actually unearthed that step well which was part of the property, connected it with a clubhouse, right? And created an experience and also put all the rainwater in that entire apartment complex into the step well. What a beautiful change
An
I thought this
Indian
was.
version of the swimming pool.
So
Yeah.
he didn't thankfully he didn't line up the well at the bottom. It still is a well, but he created an experiential space. I mean, imagine by the clubhouse, if you have a monument, you can
Right.
just go sit there and sip a cup of tea. What a beautiful experience that is. Yeah. So I think that mindset and that behavior change is what I think we have tackled today. But I think we need help, serious help for these 600 plus step wells and thousands of stepwells, which are in such a state of despair across the country.
So, Kalpana ji, let us go through this journey with the case study of Bansilalpet Stepwell. Okay, so when did you identify it, and in what state did you find it, and what were the key challenges that you faced?
So I actually every year we started pitching different interesting ideas to the government, the local municipality and local zonal commissioners. So I went to this zone, which is the Secunderabad zone. I went to pitch rainwater harvesting under flyovers, because under flyovers a lot of water that goes as a waterfall adds to the water on the surface, doubles up, and then the huge amount of urban flooding. So why can't we put this clean water in between the flyovers? There's a piece of land. Why can't we actually put them into injecting boards and start, saving this water rather than throwing in all the water
And
on the
creating
ground
flooding.
and mixing with sewage and throwing pathogens all across the city? So we are creating disaster after disaster. So why not the water being captured? So I went with a serious plan with modular rainwater harvesting. How I understood how they do it in Berlin and other countries, and I actually made a plan and took it to them. And I presented this at the end of my presentation. I also told, if you have wells and step wells in this zone, it is good to take care of urban flooding, because these days you get a huge amount of rainfall in a short period of time. So when I mentioned this, they seemed to be interested, and they said, we do have a couple of locations. And I was also interested. I said, please do share it with us. And then that conversation was over and we came back. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I didn't hear. So I actually called back. And when I called back, one of the engineers who picked up said, Madam, आपको क्या करना है इससे? क्या पानी आएगा? क्या? What is the thing? Why are you, continuously calling me and asking? Then I said, no, I really want to see this space. And the zonal commissioner asked me to visit. So please. So when I went there, they said someone will come and show. Actually, nobody came. They kept coordinating on the phone. So it was so difficult in between the gullies. I really didn't know where the stepwell was, because I walked past it, Anuradha, I walked past it twice. I didn't know it was a stepwell. Then my son-in-law was there with me, and he said, Auntie, I see some pulli kind of a thing in one corner. So then we quickly rushed there and saw, because there's so much vegetation and people are actually throwing in front of us. At that point of time, they're actually throwing bags of garbage in it. And we both were trying to than our eyes up there. We are looking at the ground because there's overflowing sewage, bandicoots. We don't know where to put our feet. It was actually pretty dirty. I mean, nobody can even walk there. Not just with Corona, but I had to put 2 masks to walk around it. Because imagine walking around a large dump yard. That was how it was. When I saw the police, I was shocked. I mean, I said, oh, this is the well. And The first day, but Anuradha, I saw my vision, what happened with the Stepwell today. I saw this vision on day one. I saw the, like an architect, what we do as a designer is understand the context, right? This was what at least we were taught 30 years ago. Understand the context of the site. So the context was there's an open ground which is abandoned vehicles, a lot of garbage. There's a lot of things happening on the pathway around, like overflowing sewage. I mean, utilities are not well managed, and people are, school children were actually walking in that sewage waters. I still have the picture of those. All these seem like a challenge, like revamping utilities. And when I walked towards the well, to the entrance of the well, I found a government transformer on top of the well. Now, what is underneath, I really don't know, but I saw a permanent transformer with a RCC base, and I was like, wow. And then there were three homes, shacks. People had made, homeless had made like temporary homes on them. I spoke to one of those families. They said they've been there for 20 plus years. One of them even had got their daughter married off from there. So I didn't know whether to cry or, because look at the plight of the homeless. Of course, some corporate or someone would have told, like, okay, you can stay here or what. They did occupy. But imagine they're staying in a place where people are still throwing garbage around, right? How do they live when what is this, and then one side is all, I saw so much community diversity also. One side there's a temple and a lot of Hindu homes. The other side is Muslim homes. So I knew there is a diversity to handle. And a couple of people I just like walked by and asked, what is this? And some people said, it's we are going to build a community hall. Somebody said, यहाँ parking नहीं है, तो इसको parking बनाने का सोच रहे हैं हम लोग. I never mentioned the word well. I just asked, ये क्या है, यहाँ क्या बन रहा है, and all that. यहाँ कचरा क्यों फेंक रहे हैं? बहुत साल से फेंक रहे हैं, मैडम. And a lot of people who are living there are new, in the sense they are in the 30s, 40s. They don't even know what is there. पता नहीं क्या है, कुछ fence ऐसे है, कुछ कुछ है वहाँ पे. So I knew that there's something is happening in the next 2 years. And the temple also, someone said, yeah, like, we were thinking of doing a goshala on one side. So, okay, wow, there's so many things. And I understood also there is a couple of political parties that people were part of, who I spoke to. One was TDP, one was Congress. So I understood there are three to four political parties. There's diversity, there's, encroachments to be moved, and that. Then I understood the day one that this has to be started by the government, right? An NGO or an individual, next day the project will tank for multiple reasons. So then I went and pitched to the principal secretary, spoke to him, chatted with him, and I said, sir, we must take up this step well. It looks like a beautiful step well, but we don't know the footprint. By then I had asked my junior architects and people in the office to start looking for this well footprint, and there have been too many libraries and 2 3 months exercise, and a few friends, architects Neha, and who is also an urban planner. She was also helping me document in initial stages. Nobody could find a footprint, and the moment we started work with the government, now these guys, typically they also started with a lot of labor. And I should not complain that they had almost 80 people on ground, started to pick garbage. But to come to that point, it took me weeks to sort of make it happen,
What
right?
I feel very interesting in what you have told till now is that you very holistically identified all the stakeholders, from the people who were using that property legally or illegally, people who were using it as an extension to their homes, and the agency. So you identified each stakeholder very well and then approached each of them or involved each of them eventually, which is very
Absolutely. And literally the streets were a spillover of their homes or tent houses or pump, repair shops. Everything was like out on the streets and that. So identifying and also strategizing in a way that this project should move in the right direction. So principal secretary agreed and got the zonal commissioner to begin work. About 70, 80 people started working, and also they used the JCB initially because they had to move out a lot of loose garbage and mud which is there. Then what happened? intact Hyderabad, right? But what happened was she put a picture of this thing in the National Intact page and said heritage being bulldozed by a JCB and that caught some fires, right? I was called and I had to principal secretary and he said, "See, look, we do a lot of support and you've been at it and you wanted us to open, but this is what happens in India, right? You know, people don't collaborate, people just go and put complaint. Now, how do we handle this?" I said, "Sir, I'll take care of this," and so I handled them by not handling them.
Mm. So
So
great.
what do you say? See, if you are connoisseurs of heritage, you should actually join hands with somebody who's just like a simple citizen on ground who's wanting to do something. I felt at that point that how collaborations work, collaborations should work in our country. That's how we can move India to where
I think that's a very big gap you have identified. I think most of our projects fail. I mean, you look at it. One day the road is laid, the very next day it's dug up for some other department. That's just the lack of collaboration between departments. So very important gap you have highlighted.
So then I went on Instagram instantly and then they tried to reply and tell that every day my team is there, even though we are not part of the project formally, no signed MOU and such, while I'm working on that. So I said the government is doing the work. We are, because once they remove the garbage, our team is actually sitting on ground sorting every stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And getting it. And one of the mantapams was found in a fallen state. It was not fallen. So the picture, the shot taken showed a fallen mandapam and here collected stones on one side and sort of brings a different story, right? You could have talked about something that is in 42 years. I mean, Intac existed then also. So, but today I'm working with amazing people in Intac in Nashik and Delhi and few other people, who are actually, wanting to work with us and that. So I find this collaborations also very, very fruitful if you actually come together. I know what I'm saying is the reaction, right? See, we need to respond and not react to things, we need to understand what's happening on ground. And
Yeah,
I
but
also do
in a
control.
project like this, these kind of obstacles will come.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm
So
attuned to
that's
that because 10 years of my work on ground actually taught me the communities that you want, who are the beneficiaries, are the ones who will tackle you in the worst possible way. So
absolutely.
this is like understood. And I'm just expressing this not as a negative point, but I'm just trying to say that we should all be collaborative in a certain way
Right.
to create a larger win. So that was one challenge. So we went past that, and then of course I then pushed for the MOU, and then it had to go through several standing committees, and because chief secretary and the commissioner for CSR had to sign off. So it went through different offices, and I myself have gone through many offices to actually move this file because it's not priority, right? It's just somebody wants to make this well happen, and so. And there are, of course, few bureaucrats and Arvind sir, who's principal secretary, he's been like a keystone for me for this project and absolutely moved things in many directions for us. So once we got the MOU, I still remember October 21st, 2022. When I signed the MOU, it was for me like I've already achieved this monument. It was it's just a permission, okay? It had
Right.
some 56 clauses of what to do, what not to do. All of this is, anything that happens there is on us, is on the NGO, we are responsible for so many things, all of it. And in fact, a lot of things we sat together and, put many things together from different, because there's no such MOU that has happened before. And it was not part of ASI monument, or it was not a protected monument. It was just a GHMC land, and there happens to be a well in it. Getting the MOU was one. But that day, then when I came back with the MOU home, that's when it was a shocker that I have written 18 months we'll hand over. Where is the money? I, as an architect, I know just the well itself, looking at the size now, I don't know the depth and what detailing, but I know it will cost not less than 1.5, maybe 2 crores, 1 crore. I don't know. It's that kind of money. So quickly started the MILAP funding and started talking to my own network. Then it seemed like a huge mountain task. And I even, thought of a project called Project Shakti. What if I catch hold of 100 women in our city, 100 influential women, and take 1 lakh from each of them, right? Then I make it a crore. And the give back to them was a nice photographed image of them with 100 women trying to help for a step well, and you will get a book in return. This is what was my ask from them. So I thought I myself knew about 10 women who can easily contribute. Finding another 90 is not a challenge. It was a challenge. Within the 10 women itself. And then, going to different groups and meeting people. And I knew that this is not going anywhere. The speed at which I should work, and this is going this way. So what I thought is, why am I looking at a bigger problem? Let me break it down. Let me break it down into weekly tasks. Weekly, what is the fund that I need? So I need anywhere from 1.5 lakh to 2.5 lakh. So let me target weekly funding, right? In a week, can I get this? So then I used to target few friends and few in the network, and of course they trust the work because last 10 years they've been seeing me work, doing a lot of genuine work on ground. So people did give, and Milap funding I was getting few anonymous funds and all. But later on I understood my husband was encouraging, and he was actually putting a 50K or 80K, just to keep me there. So it was interesting how the first few weeks went on. And you won't believe the last week, that around that time I had already identified few funders, and Gandipet Welfare Society, which is the largest funder. I already got them a few times. They were quite convinced, and I was getting there. Infosys Foundation also was very interested at that time. So I knew I have few interested people. I don't have to fear that much. But the last few weeks will have to go, right? I mean, I had till they get the process takes time, the CSR funds. So that 2 months was a huge struggle, because already I had exhausted people in my network, and it was literally like begging people. And then I had my classmate who is a beautiful, dancer, Meenakshi Srinivasan. She's a very well-known dancer. She's my classmate. I said, can you help me do like a dance outreach for this? And so poor thing she and her husband went to a couple of stepwells in Chennai, shot few videos and telling that how it is living heritage, exactly what you're saying, and how we should protect them. And she did it in a beautiful, I shall send it to you. It's an amazing piece that she did. And that also happened to resonate, and few people donated through that also. And the last 2 weeks, when I was literally exhausted, I mean, no one there to pay. And you won't believe that 2 weeks, my husband's friend, he sold a home. He just called me exactly on Thursday, and he said, I want to donate some money. I sold a home, but I don't, I got a small cash component. I don't want to, I thought you're doing a fantastic cause, and I think I should spend it only on this. Shall I send, some money to you, and you take care of your payments? And exactly 2.5 lakhs they sent me, and that's 2.6 lakhs is what I had to pay. So the next week also some miracle like that happened. So I thought that strong intent, sort of the universe comes together.
I was about to say that you should, universe expects you to take first few steps. Once you take first few steps, then it starts pitching in. It doesn't start pitching in before you take the first step.
Absolutely. So a lot of miracles, lot of things, and even in the when we started working, you won't believe there were a lot of people who told me, यहाँ पे 5-6 लोग मरे हुए हैं, because earlier it was drinking water source, then people used to swim, and because of these platforms people used to hit their head straight, dive in, and people have lost, like some 2 wives of some traders, they just suicided in this well. तो बहुत मतलब यहाँ बहुत केयरफुली काम करो मैडम, शैतान रहते हैं बहुत. I told them, हमसे बढ़ के शैतान कौन है जो इतना गंदगी में रखा हुआ है पूरे सेक्टर को. We are the biggest shaitan. I said it doesn't matter. And I think I'm working with good energy. So I think they will give me support. They will not act against me. So you don't worry. So a lot of people indirectly also tried to deter me from this. Later on, I understood that they were all wanting to do something else. The agendas were different. And we also found a lot of these tantric, this black magic kind of things, kept just before we start work on the day. So the laborers used to identify that, Amma, wahan mat jao yaar, hum log usko nikal ke, they used to burn it. I said, it's okay. Then he said, nahi, you should be careful and all that. So the laborers actually got more women to work. They were literally my warriors. Men, because if they use force, you don't know what is underneath, and they had to work very, very carefully. So, working with these 60, 70 women on a daily basis, meeting them, it used to be fun. They were the crane operators, they were on ground. And every day they used to find, Amma, ek metlu, I mean, the one step we found today, and we found a lion's head today or a horse head. They used to be so excited, and at the end of the day, usually they wind up and run away, right? They were actually, they used to sit with me, chat with me, and they used to, enjoy the work. And next day, they were looking forward to their work. This is just a mundane, labor that to picking this kind of garbage. So we used to also rotate workers because they're not exposed to this kind of garbage every day. So every 10 days,
So
finding
how
the
much garbage did you take out?
for
Total?
2,000 tons of
My
garbage, which
God.
is one third of what the city produces on a daily basis. We produce about 6,400 or 6,600 tons in a day. And this was 2,000 tons. And imagine it was a packed community, right? A very small gullies. We took it out of the well, and of course, the local zonal commissioner and the city helped us move this garbage out, and they hired Ramki services to sort of segregate and handle this garbage well. So, but even carting out this kind of garbage. So for me, time was essence. A, MOU. Second, we are dealing with. It is almost like retrofitting a flight, retrofitting a plane in flight, right? It's like that. So everyone has to go to office, schools, all this has to happen while this huge, humongous work has to happen. So you can't trouble people beyond a certain point of time. They will get ticked off, and they were ticked off right from day one is a different thing. And also the government to keep them aligned with your interest. It had to, so in the beginning itself, when principal secretaries are asked, so when do we inaugurate? I quickly told them, sir, we will take it up, the Independence Day or the October or before December of 2022, we will definitely inaugurate this temple. So it became a target from them. So they told it in the press, right? So then for me, working backwards and that, so that it was a huge amount of pressure, not only for us, even for conservation architects. See, they usually take their time, right? And all this lime and figuring out this, it takes time. And that there, even in conservation work, we had a lot of challenges. There's no place to actually keep the stone, and the people that were working with stone, they got so many challenges. And actually, at the end of before 2 months before the project, I didn't even have a stone worker because multiple teams left because they couldn't work with the community. Every day, some problem. They come stop work or dharna or come back and sit there in a group and say, you can't, we cannot deal with the dust. And even though you shield and do, it is a lot of sound. I agree. I mean, in close quarters, right? And it's in a packed community. So talking to them, sometimes just quietly listening and just quietly taking in whatever they say. But you had to be resilient to that phase because it is not easy for them also. This I completely understand their stand also. And what is coming up is not their problem. What is coming up and what is it, ये क्यों कर रहे हो, क्या है, I mean, रहने दो उसको, अब क्यों कर रहे हो. Many times I have come back home crying also because not knowing what to do, it's like hitting a wall sometimes. Even the government, help. I used to get even some police help sometimes. After all this help, some things happen on ground, and even the zonal commissioner used to say, "Madam, आपको handle करना पड़ेगा ground को, हम लोग handle नहीं करेंगे." So few times we defined the wall. The wall got broken a few times, and हमको 10 feet आप अंदर ले लो. 10 feet कैसे लेते हैं अंदर? This is a monument. You have to, we've already come towards, and then we have to take political support. And the minister there also was aligned with the government at that point. And also being mentioned by Prime Minister Modi in Man Ki Baat
That is it.
had an impact, Anuradha. I must tell you that, it definitely had an impact because next day it became a talked about project, right? It became a prestigious project for everybody. And I must say that I took 300% advantage.
So how did Prime Minister Modi come to know of this project?
No. I mean, I just got a call from Delhi PMO's office saying that Prime Minister wants to mention this in Man Ki Baat. So, thoda details uske bare mein that I just got a call and they said
They
he's
found you.
yeah. They called us and they even called the I think Principal Secretary or Zonal Commissioner. They said they're going to talk about this project. They talked about this project that it's a community initiative, right? It's a community initiative. They didn't mention anybody's name or it. It was in the initial stages of the project where government also was doing work and we were also parallelly doing work. But after the MOU, literally we had to take up, before the MOU itself, about a 1 month or 2 months before, after 2 months of work, they had sort of abandoned or not done because a lot of rains were happening. There were only 200 sanitation workers in that
But
zone.
Kalpana ji, what is the total time that was taken to restore this?
After desilting, including desilting, about a year,
About a year. About a year.
10 months, I should say. 10 months, the thing, everything was up in its place.
Up
And
and
then we were
running.
doing some smaller works, but
Which is okay.
not
I mean, yeah, as a monument,
less
it
than
was
a year.
ready in about 10 months
Absolutely,
time.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you now that we understand the challenges. I mean, you highlighted different challenges, from political
And
to
also,
government.
Anuradha, there was a smaller temple on top of the peripheral wall of the well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I went and asked the trustees that can we move out this, then the first thing was, how can you talk like this? Ab kya bol rahe ho? Mandir ko kaise hata? I mean, in Telugu, of course, they were talking to me. They said, you being a Hindu, how can you talk like this? 22 years it has been here.
Mm-hmm.
One lady who had installed that statue. I said, I have absolute respect for the statue, and I come from a Hindu family and background. But my thing is how to protect this well, how to protect the periphery of this well. There's work here, and that wall has fallen. Unless we move, so I said we'll do a beautiful stone structure, stone temple for Ganesha. We'll do it right outside on the periphery because this is also history, right? It's been there for 22 years, so we cannot erase that. So they said, आप कुछ भी बोलो नहीं हो सकता. In fact, I took drawings of how that stone temple would look and what we would do because right now they had a brick arch and that also had cracked up. So that seemed like a challenge. So I started talking to trustees individually and then I understood, okay, how do I help the temple so that they will help me? I understood, I found my trump card. There was a sewage line under the temple, right? Because the temple also enclosed in a certain way. They built over the sewage line. So if we were able to move the sewage line out, there is a point to negotiate. So then requested the zonal commissioner. He said, "Nahi, abhi it's a big work." But then we talked about walkway all along. So we had to revamp utilities. At that point, it was not thought in a big way, but later on, everything happened. So I requested them, and we were able to move the sewage line out. And then I got the trust of all the people who visit the temple and all. Then they allowed me to move the temple, but then it is not a auspicious thing to move the Ganesha out. So who will do? So, madam, you should. I said, I will do it. So we did a 3 hour yagam to deinstall and keep him in a husk sack and which I only paid for another. And I happily paid for it because I thought I'm also going to reinstall him, right? So I was also part of that process. Another 4 hours of yagam and community came together. So that was was a moment for me. Community connect happened right through this thing. I didn't break anybody's belief, but I just created a better for the Ganesha. And
Complete
also made
win-win
the temple
situation.
more, as Hindu temples have sewage line under the temple. I sort of created some sort of a wing for them, and eventually everybody were happy with this, temple. They started celebrating, and we also made a little platform around because it was right at the tree. We made a tree base, and a lot of women who used to come and pray, they used to actually start sitting on that gattu and talking. And for me, I thought it became a beautiful space, like what we call place making, right? So it was a temple context, and then So that was an interesting challenge, and also moving out the transformer, the government transformer. Though government was aligned with this project, but moving it is not easy, because imagine the entire area's power lines are there. So people did go through some distress, but the land had to be identified. So at that point, I projected this larger plan of this tourist plaza walkway, and where we could keep the transformer. So I had not by then presented this plan to the principal secretary also, but I knew my plan, right? So I had given them the location for the transformer relocation appropriately, so that everything else can happen. So when we did that, I also pitched for 42 poles, electrical poles around this heritage site. See, any heritage site we go, we see these bunch of wires, and as designers, it really, as citizens also, it hurts you. Like, why do we keep this heritage structures and around them in such a pathetic? So everything that I found everywhere that used to bother me, I tried to work on those in this site, and it happened is really God's grace, I must say. So everything was put underground, and new street lights were erected, which is grace the monument and such. So a lot of, even while erecting each pole, there is a story, right? यहाँ पे scooter नहीं आ सकता, ambulance नहीं आ सकता, and as an architect, I had to draw the map of the ambulance and say कि ऐसे turn हो सकता है. There is a turning radius, there is a these things. So they started fighting that if somebody passes away, how do we even move an ambulance? How do we get an ambulance? How are you putting a street? So the street pole had to have a base, right? A solid concrete base. That is like a 4x4 pit. The moment we dug, there was a lot of unrest there. So they understood after a couple of polls, and then of course, again the minister had to come speak, and with police support we had to. So I would say somewhere we bartered, somewhere it was like a working like on
Constant negotiation.
Chanakya strategy. That way everything happened.
Ham, dam, dandafed. Huh? Great. So,
But without studies and no direct confrontation, though they did direct confrontation, sort of get them to understand. If they didn't understand, we work like Gandhiji, kept doing our work. So eventually the wind that has been created, and when these people tell the other day, the 2 days before, one of the gentlemen how I met there, he said, Madam, our borewells have become amazing, and there's so much water back in our borewells. And through this summer, we didn't have any issue. And you know what? The well, actually, we have put a 7.5 HP line. We said that anybody in the community, you can take this water in an empty tanker and use it, within the community. But nobody needs that water anymore, because they have enough water, and the
so,
GHMC, of course, they use it for plantation and stuff. Yeah.
Kalpana ji, I want to now I want you to tell us about how it exists today, what you have created. So how you're keeping alive. So like you mentioned in the beginning that you visited a lot of stepwells that were restored. And what happens is that is one-time activity. You restore it and it again gets filled with garbage. So that cycle goes on and it's obviously possible. So tell us how you are keeping it a living heritage and what are the activities and how the community is benefiting out.
So, so the first thing is to coming up with this design thinking or adaptive reuse of this abandoned ground space and old community hall, which was literally a drug adda actually, and bringing that building down with the government and creating a new tourist plaza. Why this? Because I always wanted people to engage with the water and the well. What is the point just coming, seeing the well and walking back? What did we do? What happened? What is the history of that well? And what is this? How many layers of history you find? What is it? So where do we showcase this? And I thought that tourist plaza, which is a multi-use space, that you can do multiple workshops there, and maybe you can have corporate conferences there with with the well in the view. So actually, if you see, that area was more or less a low middle class community, and kept very unkept. The lot of things were happening, good people, families, but the area was not, the area was not at all in a state where even I or you could just walk and see. I mean, you would just come back like this. You will not even, it was in a bad shape. So from that to changing the ambience of the place in a way that even visitors, anyone, even for the community to come back. So today there is clean air, clean environment, clean water, clean surroundings for children to play on this walkway. They actually cycle, 2-year, 3-year-olds actually cycle, in their toddler cycles around. I feel good because earlier they wouldn't have, couldn't do this because of, imagine overflowing sewage and all of this. This couldn't have happened, right? So my point was, so a lot of people, my own friends debated, like, why would we put so much, why would you, work on getting this kind of funds in this area, right? That's when I debated saying, why should designers design only for the elite? Why should we do this? I mean, this is what is it's become a norm that we always design for, people with money and, who can afford. But people in this kind of an ambience, if we create a different change, the behavior changes. Today they refuse to put any garbage because even though they have garbage and then they give it to responsibility, has come. But even after 20 years of talking to them about segregating garbage or not throwing it in the bin, I don't think that behavior change would have come. Today, the ambience has changed. Their space has changed. They see a monument out of their balconies, and they feel proud of this. And the government has allowed them to have shops in their basement and in the lower ground. So it is earning
Generating
for them.
employment.
Yeah, it is earning for them. So for them, it is important to keep the well and surroundings clean because otherwise people will not come here, right? So it is sort of, I put them in a gridlock, I would say, that they have to do this to get that, right? To get a benefit of the, so today there's a nice eat street that has formed, just outside the Stepwell, there's a street that's become a eat street. And a lot of, even a bhajiwala is making like 30-40K a month in, where there are few thousand people visiting the well.
And they're also, I mean,
50 rupee, why should we not pay? How do we maintain these monuments? If without, the monument earning something, how do we maintain? And government, they don't have the mechanisms to actually do this day-to-day maintenance and, take care of it like the way it should be, though their intent may be there. So a public-private partnership. So the NGO who funded us, they are into solid waste management. So they said they'll take care of the well. I requested them that take care of it like a whole unit. And that's what the government also did, signed an MOU with them. So they, as an NGO, also, they don't have to put money, but they're managing the story, right? So we do a lot of donor events where inside the step well, it's beautifully lit up. Huh? See, lighting of the well, I thought it should be done because later on it will be lit up in 100 million ways and not, appropriately done. Today we have lighting. There is a different types of lighting, like everyday evening lighting is one. When there is an event that's so slow, soft lighting, there's a switch that you switch on, just like what we do in mood lighting. We have this automated system, right? Of course, here it's nothing automated, but just a switch on. And even if there is an event, if somebody wants a plug point, so all this was planned within, so that we don't get these bunch of wires and then, destruct the site in a certain way. So a lot of beautiful events. So it started becoming, for me also, it's a revelation how it was opening up because for me it was a challenge to see how this happens. And today it's become an interesting cultural space. So many, more than 200 or 250 artists have performed in, dance, music, and many, photo shoots have happened for mostly artists, crafts, and that, we don't give for wedding photo shoots, and we actually curate what should happen there because there is community. We have to be mindful of children watching. So what has to be done, what has not to be done, and even the sound, levels to be maintained. 8 o'clock we wind up. We don't have events go beyond that. And maybe in a month, some 3 or 4 events max that can happen. And if when there is exams and such, we don't take up events. So we're very mindful of what is happening with the community, but community also benefits if there are events because they can sell their stuff that they are, they have put up.
get
And
exposed to a whole lot of art forms.
absolutely. And the children there, I'll tell you, we had a harmonica event about 2 weeks back. And a kid there came and asked me, so I got this bunch of community kids were watching to sit there and all. They said, "Madam, ये क्या instrument है? हमने कभी बजाया, हमने कभी देखा ही नहीं." So I got them to introduce to that harmonica group who also teach in Indira Park, and on weekends. So this kid actually took the number and in his hand, wrote in the wrote the number, went back, and last week when there was an event, he came back and he showed me the harmonica. He ran to his house, got the harmonica, and he said, "I'm going there to learn harmonica now in Indira Park
What a
with you."
beautiful story.
So
What a beautiful story.
and these things, these everyday things sort of bring so much, and people who actually complained earlier, the same guy about 2 months back, he told, "Madam, आपने तो हमारे घर के सामने जन्नत दिखाया." So the transformation, maybe they didn't understand at that point, but they did go through a lot of trouble. But today, the win that they are getting their relatives, friends to showcase the well. They get to do yoga in the mornings in that community green space, evenings, elders and what they can actually use the park and the walkway. A lot of them walk today, walking, it's the entire community. So I would say it has benefited in multiple ways, and overnight their property values have gone up, right? So their own wins, if I see, I feel like the children will be growing up in such a beautiful space because I see youngsters interacting with foreigners or our own artists who come there. These are all beautiful interactions, right? Where do they go to get these? And this is right in front of their homes. The other day, Maharashtrian Lavani happened, one of the cultural events that happened, and they were so enjoying, and people enjoyed Kavalis or Samir Rahat who had performed there. From the balconies they were clapping and they were enjoying his poetry, and his songs were so soulful in that. And also it's a subterranean monument, right? So the kind of acoustics and that, and by the waters, I have spoken yesterday also, this Sai Sri, I mean, she performed a beautiful classical, songs on Rama. So I spoke to her, understood what is her experience. I speak to several artists. What is their experience? They say it is an out of the world experience. We are so used to performing in Hyderabad in closed halls or that. And this is an amazing. So this Skanda Prasad, I mean, who she performed yesterday was amazing, and really like Rama was there. The songs that went through. So it's diverse events also. It is not that you're targeting a certain religion also. There's people from Assam who performed, so it's different cultures and that you get. So many people ask also, oh, these events, doesn't it disturb the community and such? So there is a win for the community if more people come and, they can sell their stuff and they get to interact, they get to see. And imagine opening and, your balcony sitting there. I told them actually when I was restoring the monument, one day you'll be able to rent your balconies.
Yes.
You
Yes.
And people will want to live here, your rental value will go up because, I mean, honestly, I would like to take a small space there, it's a
I'm
beautiful
sure they will be more than
place.
willing to give it to you. But what I see as a general citizen of a urban city is that you created a very beautiful public space, culturally rich public space where everybody kind of benefits, and that's how our monuments should be living. They should not be dead monuments just to look or just to become white elephants that need to be maintained. They should be self-sustaining. They should sustain themselves through community, through whatever, through government, through private partnerships. So I think you created, and what you have done very beautifully is you focused as much on the soft infrastructure as on the hard infrastructure. So hard infrastructure may be a one-time story. You do it once and restore it with an annual maintenance plan or something like that. But the soft infrastructure is that would keep it alive. All these cultural programs, all these eat streets, all these shopping areas, walking areas, in community interaction areas, that is what will keep it alive. The hard infrastructure will be like a dead infrastructure if it is not used. And that is, I mean, we rarely find examples. In fact, every time I speak on tourism and travel, spaces, I say that we are focusing too much on hard infrastructure, building roads, building hotels, building this, but we are not focusing on the soft infrastructure, the glue that keeps the hard infrastructure alive. And in your story, and especially in the Bansilalpet Stepwell story, I found that whole cultural angle that you have brought, everybody feels they own a part of it or they are a part of it. It's not just it's not just something that somebody built in the past, and so we must keep looking at it. It has to be relevant today, whatever heritage is. So that is what I find absolutely incredible in this story of what you've created. Now, do you want to talk about how the admin of this is working? How at this, once you've restored, it's like everything is done, then how the administration of it is?
Administration, in the sense, it has to be joining hands with the government, the local community. Community has a committee actually. They have formed a committee. So there is a president and such. So we keep them updated of the events and if there's any exams or if anything comes up. So there is a conversation, constant conversation. So sometimes if there's any loud music or so, they have the comfort to tell us, right? And then we address it immediately. Some days when the temple events happen, we try not to have any other event there, and we try to close the well in case there's a few thousand people that come to this temple on certain occasions. So we try to work with that. So and the government, of course, has given an MOU to maintain the space, and they have seen how it is maintained. So I think it's a good thing for the government also to have people, who's maintaining.
But
And me,
NGO is maintaining it, right?
yes, NGO is maintaining it, and also see addressing the events also, right? What is the do's and don'ts? We give them a list of things, and we tell them that this cannot be done or this can be done, and also the timing and all that, and seeing charting out a calendar. Soon we have a very basic website now, but we have to create a proper website and such. This the NGO part, of course, they do a fantastic job. Every few hours, the glasses are cleaned, the floors are swept, and the gardens are always kept green. So we have a gardener, we have a couple of people who take care of the well, and we have people at ticketing counters, and a lot of schools also visit a lot. So taking care of them. When there is more people, we have two or more staff that is outsourced. So about 6 people, let's say, work on an average at the well, and their salaries are taken care with this, ticketing, and also with the events, whatever, if there is some artists which we feel that they cannot afford, but they bring a fantastic vibe to the space. And also, these are all small crowd events, like 80 people, 100, 120. This is not a place for a larger event. So we are very mindful and only get those kind of artists and events. But people want to actually today come and perform here. So people that can afford these kind of events, and so this is creating a corpus for the place, because we have air conditioning, we have lights that might go off, we have toilets. Actually, we actually, that's one thing in a public space that we don't find, right? So we have very, very good toilets, men and women toilets inside, and also we have the visitors toilets outside, so for everyday maintenance. And if there is any events and such, we open up the toilets inside. So this also gives such a good comfort, for everybody that has appreciated this. And the designing good toilets is something, it's fantastic.
It's usually forgotten. It's a patch that is put later on.
Yeah. So the money generated is creating a corpus, while there is a micro economy that has been created for the community, and they, take care of this. And also there is, because these people who are maintaining are into solid waste management, we've also created a large bin to put no plastics allowed inside the monument. Anyone comes with bottles, carry your own bottle is what we keep telling. But even if they carry, the segregation of whatever, even food, whatever is done in for some events in the park side, we segregate the solid waste management. These people take responsibility for entire garbage that is coming out of this monument, and it is taken every few days to their solid waste management sites, and it's managed beautifully. Not just that, the community around, every 2 days a lady goes and picks up plastics, and that pays the money to the community for giving. So all the plastics are segregated in that way, so they only give wet waste through the. And if a child comes with a bag of plastic, his ticket is free, so the child will go every nook and corner. So for them, it is a fun thing, but still encouraging this habit. They are seeing that from their homes, the plastics is collected and it is going into this large bin that's created. So we not just creating it as a beautiful, cultural or heritage space, but also the mindful engagement with it, right? Which is not there today. Even in the most elite places, you see people just throw out of their cars and just throw a bag from the window, fling it somewhere and go. This is the environment we live in. But here they are very, very mindful. I see people when I go, I feel so good. People that were actually throwing garbage in front of me are actually picking one or two plastics and then trying to put it in that bin that is created. So I think everyone is good. We can't say everyone is good or bad. I think it's the environment you grow in. It's the place that you, what you see, what you learn, and it just. So it should happen without preaching, right? Without preaching.
More like garbage attracts garbage and beauty attracts beauty.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
if I'm not wrong, you have documented all of this in a book.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there is a book here which I would like to
show it to us. Yeah, I will put a link to this book. Okay.
So I will share the link to this.
Yes.
So why even a book like this is the 11th well we are restoring in the city. But I realized every well there is a unique challenge we are dealing with, unique type of engagement, unique type of, even conservation wise also we are facing some challenges. So many things that needs to be documented for anybody else. Tomorrow you want to undo a well, it becomes a story, and we wanted to capture in story form. So what I did is, in my own office, all the authors are people that worked with me or interns. There was this girl who came from UK who interned with us. So I made her write a story on sustainability and economics of water. So she's written a chapter. So, and what was their take? And everyone in the last paragraph talks about how they are connected to this project and why they think it's a good project to be part of. So this book may not be like I would say it is an amateur effort still, Anuradha. It is not like one of those serious books which is like a lot of how do you the book layout and all this is not but still it captures the entire essence of this journey, right? So it's called The Journey of Restoring Bansilalpet Stepwell. It's available on Amazon. So we made it like print to order. Once you order, it's so it may be only a few hundred rupees from that, but we make sure that whatever in that we initiate some step well, because even the CSR will come only after you open up, right? So initial resources we have to find. So this enterprise that I founded, whatever other than the salaries, everything goes back to initiating more and more step wells in the state and doing a lot of good work. But the nice outcome of this Bansilalpet stepwell is we got a call from Rashtrapati Bhavan to restore stepwells in Rashtrapati Nilayam, and we were able to do these 3 stepwells. And sadly, even inside the protected property, the restoration part was not looked at, and a lot of cementing had happened and a lot of patches, and it was not kept in a good shape. And today we've followed the same template. We took a barrack and we created a museum out of it, because this is to lakhs of people, and it will be inaugurated by the president herself in mid-December this year. So that's another big win. And imagine the first citizen of the country talking about restoring stepwells and the way it will resonate across the country. So it's really truly a privilege, this journey. And
the reason we also wanted you to talk about all these things was that is with the hope that many more people across the country would get inspired, because I'm sure the whole country is full of stepwells. I have traveled across the length and breadth of this country, and I have found stepwells which can be seen as stepwells across the country, and millions of them need restoration. So your story and your experience would help a lot of people to start on this journey in their respective neighborhoods or in their city.
And the most important piece of the story is water, restoring water, right? The
Yeah, I
water
wanted to end
security.
on that note, asking you to tell us the water impact of this restoration.
Yes. So we have monitored about 100 bore wells before and after restoration. So what was few hundred feet is today at, last week we had this bore well understanding, and we did this water elevation map. So water is at 12 feet, 15 feet today in bore well. So that's a huge, with just one round of rainfall. And also this well itself can capture about 22 lakh liters of water. And few times if it gets filled, that means we're talking about few crores of liters of water that can be saved of rainwater. Now, when it was filled, whenever the monsoons happened, the aquifer would ooze in water, but that mixed with garbage, because when we opened up, we found black water. We had to wash, disinfect, and then we saw absolute clean water coming into this well. They actually, I don't know if I've sent you the video, but I'll send you the small short video of this where we filmed the water and part of it. So even today there is 32 feet water. It works like a piezometer, right? The well actually shows the groundwater levels and the quality and all of that. So this black water earlier would have gone into bore wells, right? There's an exchange of water in aquifers, and that would have impacted health in a adverse way, in a big way. Now this is all not seen because water is invisible, like you don't see it, which is also the reason why you don't respect it, right? So imagine the health impact that's turned around, which is an intangible benefit that is you cannot put a price to them. Clean air.
Can you spend 2 minutes and explain us how you said piezometer, right? It acts as a piezometer. Can you explain for absolute lay audience what is a piezometer and how does the
So
how it
basically,
works?
government also digs certain points where they call it as inspection wells, right? Where they want to understand groundwater level. The groundwater board does it, and they understand. So piezometer is nothing but understanding the groundwater levels. And in these wells, they actually show us the level or the strength of the shallow aquifer zone, because the shallow aquifer zone is nothing but a water conveying layer underground. So from there is where water oozes into these. So wells were strategically and intelligently made in spaces where there is a very good, strong aquifer point. Now, they didn't have any technology. I don't know how they did it, just by intuition. Every step well you find is in the right, stream point or in the right aquifer. And that used to give community drinking water in those days, right?
So if
Later on,
I put it in layperson words, you're saying that the level of water in this step well actually tells you the health of water in the all the neighboring wells.
in that micro watershed, absolutely. And that quality is a reminder that we should keep it clean. And today we are actually working with a professor in IIT Hyderabad. So we are trying to make this portable water, Anuradha. Now that's another dream of mine, that what if
That
we
will be.
make all of these wells portable water wells? And because thank God that most of the wells don't have sewage in them, unlike lakes and such that we are, what if we make portable water? Yes, there is a basic treatment that has to be done, but not like an STP kind of treatment. But if we can make these portable water, this will be good for the community and all the visitors that come. It will take care of their water needs. And also an example, right? What if the wells become portable water? Then people won't give up on these wells. They'll hold on to it. So setting up a portable water station with a real-time monitoring of the quality of water, the 23 parameters of water. We're going to put it in real time, so I can trust the water that I'm drinking. Right? It is clean. Spring water is what groundwater department has given us a certificate, but still there may be, I don't know, bird droppings or dust or whatever that's going. So there are a lot of fishes and turtles that is continuously cleaning. There is no larvae today. There's no algal formation because there is continuous action. And maybe we put some sort of floaters or something tomorrow. We have to see. But getting potable water now, it's done. The experiment is done, and we actually there is clean water that can come out of it, and the product is ready. Maybe it is good to go in 15-20 days. This is also a big achievement for me.
That
Like,
will be a real big achievement. I mean, that's a dream I didn't even dare to dream, because it seemed like too far a thing to achieve that you can use your potable water. In fact, in a lot of my articles, I've written that, in my childhood, about 30, 40 years back, we used to travel by train across the country, and we used to drink water at every possible station. We used to fill our bottles from the station and drink. And today, you cannot drink any groundwater. We only depend on bottled water, and bottled water also comes from the ground. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So that is a very
so
big
we also, Anuradha, the thing is, save rainwater and it can be made potable water. You can improve your groundwater level. So the entire ecosystem is benefited if you make one well happen. Right? So many bore wells around benefit, and it's like a ripple effect. More and more water bumped in, the number of bore wells around, it's in a circular fashion. It will keep affecting bore wells a little far away. Something may be polluted, it can dilute the pollution, because the more water that you pump in, and honestly, the more and more recharge you keep doing, it also creates a microclimate, around
right.
the stepwells. It also brings climate. Today we are talking about temperature going up. So the number of benefits is just innumerable. And we've also done water channels around the well, where the rooftop water goes on this walkway around and slopes towards these water channels. And we've made huge pits under the community park that we've made, huge rain recharge pits, about 6 numbers of them. It has a silt trap. Now water goes in because indirectly it is helping the well. So otherwise, see, we do see Baulis like Agrasen Ki Bauli in Delhi. It's a fantastic monument, but there's no water, there's no life, It's just a monument, right? But I want to restore wells and say that water is relevant today. So these wells are relevant, so protect it. And historians look at history in silos. And
Right.
the city development is looked at in silos. Urban development is looked at in silos. What if we combine all of this and create fantastic, heritage cultural centers where you respect water, where you segregate, where all the problems in the city, the 1/4 square kilometer of development of revamping utilities has happened. Everyone has got sewage lines, water lines. Why? Because we thought about it earlier. Because if we do the walkway, next day it gets dug up for something, right? So I thought of what all could be dug up tomorrow. So we got all of them before we laid that walkway around.
I'm going to use your story for synthesis thinking or multidimensional thinking, which is so missing in our urban planning, especially. They create something, and then they do not think about any ripple effect or anything that can come in the way even 10 days down the line.
And the most important thing is it happens to be in the upper catchment of Hussain Sagar. That is a bigger story, because if this opened up like a bucket, 22 lakh liters and few crore liters going here is not out there as an urban flood. Now, if this was packed, water at the, whatever oozes would naturally drain into the low-lying areas, adding to the flooding. So look at it like flood mitigation, water security. Look at hundreds of benefits water wise, and then the climate and the microeconomy and the events that can happen, supporting hundreds of artists that can perform in the small kacheri kind, that small sabha kind of culture that you're bringing back in the city. So I think health benefits and water is something that is, you cannot negotiate these, and you cannot put a price to this. It's really precious. And I believe the health of these people in this community, it definitely has improved multitude times from where they were living and what they are today.
That's
So,
your punya. That's your biggest punya that you have earned out of this.
and
I'm
I
sure
really
that
wish that this template is taken across the country.
we will try our best to take this story to as many people as possible, so that they get inspired and they do. And as and when I am next in Hyderabad, I'm definitely visiting it with you. I definitely want to do a poetry reading session there. And with people, I used to have a Kabir study group in Hyderabad when I was there for 2.5 years. And I did a couple of poetry sessions of Kabir in some venues, I think at our sacred space and in a couple of places. So I
Very
would
nice.
love to do one in Bansilal.
Please, we look forward to it.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll create an event. And thank you so much for sharing this knowledge so generously with us. And I seriously hope that lot of conservation architects, lot of urban planners, lot of government departments and secretaries in the government would listen to this and get inspired and get in touch with you. So great, Kalpana ji. More power to you. More power to your team. And we need to see lot more replications of this Bansilalpet stepwell or other stepwells that you have restored. So more power to you, and we will talk to you again sometime on another great project that you work on. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for joining us on Detours. You can also join us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle is Inditales, INDITALES. See you soon.